English to Success. Your Path to Success.
Chapter 1: The Land of Japan. A long time ago, Japan was a land filled with natural beauty, a place where the land and people lived in harmony. Towering mountains covered much of the island, their snow-capped peaks often hidden by mist, shrouding the land in mystery. The mountain ranges stretched from one end of the country to the other, and deep valleys between them were filled with flowing rivers that powered the crops and the lives of the people. These rivers ran swiftly, carving paths through the land, creating fertile soil that was essential for the farming life. The forest stretched as far as the eye could see, with ancient trees that stood like silent guardians, and the air was filled with the rustling of leaves and the songs of birds. Small villages dotted the landscape, nestled against the rivers and in the shadows of the great mountains. Life in these villages was simple yet peaceful. The people lived close to the earth, depending on it for their survival. These villages were often built near rivers or along the coast, where fish were plentiful and fresh water was abundant. The people worked together in their communities, sharing what they had to ensure everyone was fed and warm during the cold winters. Their homes were built with natural materials, using the wood from the trees and the straw from the fields. Despite their humble living, there was an undeniable beauty in their way of life. The people of Japan worked hard every day to survive. Farmers grew rice in the fertile wet fields, called paddies. They planted the seeds in the spring, when the air was fresh and the days were long. The rice would grow steadily through the hot summer months, as the villagers carefully tended to the plants, ensuring they were not overrun by weeds or pests. Rice was their main food, and it was considered sacred. When the harvest came in autumn, it was a time of celebration. Families worked together to gather the golden rice that would feed them through the long cold winter. It was a time for joy, for the fruits of their labor, and a reminder of how hard work and community could bring prosperity. Besides rice, farmers grew vegetables like radishes, onions, and cabbage, which provided variety to their meals. Some families also raised animals, keeping chickens for eggs, pigs for meat, and cows for milk. These small farms were essential to the village economy, and the families took great pride in their work. When they had enough food, they would share it with their neighbors or trade it for goods they could not grow or make themselves. Fishing was also an important part of village life. The coastal villagers would sail out on small wooden boats, throwing their nets into the sea to catch fish. The sea was a source of life, a place that provided food for both the rich and the poor. However, the sea could be treacherous. Fishermen often faced storms and strong currents, and many brave souls ventured out to sea never to return. Despite the dangers, the people respected the sea deeply, believing it was protected by spirits known as kami, who watched over their work. The weather in Japan was unpredictable, and sometimes life was harsh. During the summer, the rains came, and the rice fields would flood. The rains brought the risk of floods, and many families would worry that their crops would be ruined. In the winter, the northern regions were blanketed in heavy snow, which made travel difficult and forced people to stay inside for long periods. During typhoon season, fierce storms could blow across the country, bringing destruction and fear. These storms, which sometimes swept away homes and fields, left the people with little to live on. Hunger became a real threat, and people learned to survive on the little food they had. Villagers would help one another in times of need, always finding ways to make do with what they had. Japan was not a single, unified country at this time. Instead, it was divided into many regions, each ruled by a powerful man known as a daimyo. These lords governed large areas of land, with their own armies of warriors, to defend and expand their territories. The daimyo built castles on high hills, surrounded by deep moats and tall stone walls. From these castles, the lords could keep watch over their lands and protect their people. However, the lords often fought with each other, battling for more land, more power, and more wealth. These struggles brought suffering to the common people, who often found themselves caught between the conflicts of the powerful. Villages were required to pay taxes to the daimyo. This often meant giving a portion of their rice harvest or other crops to the lords. Sometimes the soldiers who guarded the lords took more than was fair, leaving the villagers with little to survive on. The villagers were forced to endure hardships, but their strength came from their unity. They helped one another through difficult times and relied on their sense of community to carry them through. Homes in the villages were simple yet practical. Families lived in small wooden houses with thatched roofs and walls made of wooden planks. The floors were covered in tatami mats made from woven straw, which provided a comfortable surface for sleeping, eating, and relaxing. In the center of the house, a hearth or iriri burned with a small fire to provide warmth and cook food. The hearth was a central place for the family to gather in the evening. Families would share their day's stories, discuss plans for the future, and find comfort in each other's company. This warmth, both literal and emotional, was the heart of the home. Children played an important role in village life, helping their parents with daily tasks from a very young age. Boys learned to fish and help with the harvest, while girls learned to cook, sew clothes, and care for younger siblings. Playtime was rare, but when it happened, it was filled with joy. Children would make toys from materials they found in the village, or they would run through the fields and climb the tall trees, letting their imaginations soar. The people of Japan had a deep respect for nature. They believed that spirits, or kami, lived in the trees, rivers, and mountains. These spirits were part of their everyday life and were honored through rituals and prayers. The Shinto religion taught that everything in nature was sacred. Villagers built small shrines in forests or near rivers, where they would pray for protection and good harvests. Festivals were held to thank the spirits for their blessings. During these festivals, people wore bright and colorful clothes, played drums and flutes, and danced with joy. The air would be filled with laughter, music, and the light of lanterns, creating a magical atmosphere. Buddhism, a religion that came from China, also had a profound impact on Japan. It taught people to be kind, peaceful, and to respect all living things. Buddhist monks traveled from village to village, offering wisdom about life and how to live with patience, love, and kindness. People would visit temples to pray and seek peace. The monks taught the villagers that life was about balance and that helping others was one of the greatest things a person could do. Children didn't attend formal schools, but they learned from their parents, elders, and the teachings of Buddhism. They learned to work the land, care for animals, and respect their traditions. Some boys from wealthier families would be taught how to read and write by monks. Writing, using brushes and ink, was an art, and those who could write well were respected. These children were taught to write characters on paper, carefully forming each stroke to ensure beauty and precision. Life in ancient Japan was both simple and complex. While the people faced many challenges, they found joy in their families, traditions, and their connection to nature. They understood that life was precious and that each day was an opportunity to honor the land, the spirits, and each other. They were a people shaped by their respect for nature and their unwavering loyalty to their community. The land of Japan was not just a place, it was a spirit. The mountains, rivers, and forests were part of the people's hearts and souls, and they were woven into the very fabric of their lives. This deep connection between the people and the land would shape Japan's future for centuries to come. Chapter 2: The Rise of the Samurai. As Japan's land was divided into many regions ruled by daimyo, the need for protection and power became paramount. It was during this time of constant conflict and division that a group of skilled warriors, known as the samurais, rose to prominence. The samurai were warriors bound by honor and loyalty, and they became the backbone of the feudal system in Japan. Their loyalty was to their daimyo, and their main goal was to protect the lord's land and people. The word samurai means one who serves, and it was their duty to serve their lord with complete devotion. They were not only skilled in battle, but also in maintaining the peace within their land. Their way of life was governed by a strict code known as Bushido, or the Way of the Warrior. This code taught samurai the virtues of honor, courage, and loyalty, and it dictated every aspect of their lives. A samurai's word was their bond, and to betray one's lord was considered the greatest dishonor. A samurai's training began at a young age. Boys were often trained in the ways of combat, starting at 6 years old. They learned sword fighting, archery, and horseback riding, and practiced every day to grow stronger and more skilled. They were taught that a samurai's duty was not just about strength and skill in battle, but also about having wisdom, understanding, and compassion. They studied reading and writing, often under the guidance of Buddhist monks. These lessons helped them to become well-rounded individuals, capable of thinking as well as fighting. The katana, a long curved sword, was the samurai's most prized possession. This sword was considered not only a weapon, but the very soul of the samurai. It was carefully crafted, polished, and maintained with the utmost respect. The samurai would often meditate while cleaning their katana, as the sword was seen as an extension of themselves. They believed that the katana's sharpness and strength reflected the samurai's own honor and discipline. Samurai wore armor made of small iron plates tied together with silk cords. This armor was designed to be both strong and lightweight, allowing them to move swiftly in battle. The armor was often decorated with intricate designs, and their helmets would feature fierce masks or horns to instill fear in their enemies. The samurai's appearance was meant to strike awe into the hearts of those who faced them. The samurai served their daimyo with unshakable loyalty. They were willing to lay down their lives to protect their lord and the people of their land. If their lord was threatened or in danger, the samurai would take up arms without hesitation. They believed that to fail in their duty was a dishonor too great to bear. If they made a mistake or dishonored their lord, the samurai would often take their own life in a ritual known as seppuku. This act, which involved disemboweling themselves with a sword, was meant to restore honor and cleanse the samurai's soul. But the samurai were not only warriors, they were also artists, philosophers, and poets. They believed that true strength came from within, and that mental discipline was just as important as physical strength. Many samurai wrote haikus, short poems that expressed their thoughts on nature, life, and the fleeting nature of existence. These poems, filled with simplicity and beauty, were a reflection of the samurai's inner world. In battle, the samurai were fearless and highly skilled. They fought with precision, using their swords, bows, and spears to defeat their enemies. The battlefield was often a place of chaos and confusion, but the samurai maintained focus, their movements deliberate and swift. They were trained to think and act quickly, adapting to the ever-changing conditions of the fight. The rise of the samurai changed Japan forever. Over time, the samurai became more than just warriors. They became a symbol of power, pride, and loyalty. Their way of life, their Bushido Code, and their deep connection to their land and lord shaped the culture and society of Japan for centuries. Even today, the samurai's legacy can still be seen in the country's traditions, art, and respect for honor. Despite the violence and the constant wars, the samurai played an important role in maintaining order in Japan. They were the keepers of peace, the protectors of the people, and the enforcers of justice. The samurai served as a reminder to the people of Japan that loyalty, honor, and duty were the highest virtues, and that a warrior's strength was not just measured by their sword, but by their character. Chapter 3: The Way of the Samurai. The samurai were more than just warriors. They were respected for their bravery, skill, and honor. Their lives were guided by a code called Bushido, which means the way of the warrior. This code taught them to always be loyal, courageous, and respectful. A samurai never gave up, even in the hardest times. They lived to serve their lords and protect their people. They believed that their honor was more important than anything else. From a young age, boys who wanted to become samurai trained hard. They practiced sword fighting, archery, and horse riding. These skills were important, but being a samurai wasn't just about fighting. They were also taught to be kind, wise, and thoughtful. They studied arts like poetry, painting, and reading. They learned to be calm and patient in all things, even in battle. The samurai's most important weapon was the katana, a long, sharp sword. This sword was not just for fighting, it was a symbol of the samurai's honor. They took great care of their katana, cleaning it every day and making sure it stayed sharp. The sword was like a part of the samurai's body. It was always with them, ready for battle or for protection. Samurai wore special armor made from metal plates that were tied together with strong cords. The armor was both strong and light, so the samurai could move easily. Their helmets were often decorated with fierce masks to scare enemies. They looked powerful and ready to fight at all times. But even though they looked strong, samurai were taught to show respect to others. They never used their strength unless it was absolutely necessary. Samurai were loyal to their lords, or daimyo. The daimyo ruled over regions of Japan and needed the samurai to help protect their land. The samurai would do anything to defend their daimyo and the people in their care. They were willing to give their lives to keep their land safe. If a samurai lost their honor or failed in their duty, they would perform seppuku, a ritual suicide to restore their honor. This showed how seriously the samurai took their code of honor. Samurai were also known for their peaceful side. Many samurai wrote poems called haiku, which are short poems about nature and life. These poems helped samurai connect with their inner thoughts. They also practiced meditation to keep their minds calm. They believed that true strength came from a peaceful mind and heart. In battle, the samurai fought with skill and precision. They were not just strong fighters, but also smart warriors. They planned their moves carefully and never wasted energy. When they fought, they did so with honor. They respected their enemies and fought with fairness. Winning was important, but following the code of Bushido was even more important. The samurai's way of life changed Japan. They helped bring peace to the land after many years of war. They taught the people of Japan the values of loyalty, honor, and respect. The samurai are remembered today for their strength, wisdom, and honor. Their code of Bushido still inspires many people around the world. Chapter 4: Life in Japan during the Samurai Age. Life in Japan during the time of the samurai was different from today. Most people lived in small villages, where they worked hard every day to survive. The farmers grew rice, which was the main food of the people. The rice was grown in fields that were often flooded with water. This made the soil rich and perfect for growing rice. The farmers used special tools to plant, grow, and harvest the rice. Besides rice, the farmers also grew vegetables like cabbage, onions, and radishes. Some families raised animals like chickens, pigs, and cows. The animals gave them eggs, meat, and milk. Fishing was also important, especially for people who lived near the coast. Fishermen would go out on boats to catch fish from the sea. The sea was a source of food, but it could also be dangerous. Sometimes the fishermen would be caught in powerful storms, but they were brave and skilled at sea. The people in Japan had to pay taxes to the samurai and their lords. The taxes were often paid in rice or other goods. Farmers would give a portion of their rice to the lord who ruled over their land. This made life harder for some families, but they understood that they needed to give back to the people who protected them. The samurai were always ready to defend the land, and they kept the peace between the villages. People lived in simple homes. The houses were made from wood and had thatched roofs. Inside, the floors were covered with tatami mats, which were made from straw. The houses were small, but they were warm and cozy. Families would gather around the irori, a small fire pit in the center of the house, to stay warm during the cold winters. The fire was also used to cook food. At night, the family would sit together, talk about their day, and enjoy each other's company. Children played and worked together. They would help their parents by working in the fields, taking care of animals, or helping with cooking. Boys learned to fish and farm, while girls helped with the housework. Playtime was rare, but when they could, the children would run and play outside, making up games and pretending to be samurai. They dreamed of one day becoming brave warriors who would protect their families and land. The people in Japan believed in spirits. They believed that the mountains, rivers, and forests were filled with kami, or spirits that protected the land. The people showed respect for the kami by building small shrines in the forests and along the rivers. They would offer prayers to the spirits, asking for good weather, a good harvest, and safety for their families. The people also celebrated festivals to honor the spirits and thank them for their blessings. Japan was not one country at this time. Instead, it was divided into many regions. Each region was ruled by a daimyo, a powerful lord who controlled the land. The daimyo needed samurai to protect their land, and they would hire skilled warriors to fight for them. These warriors were trained to fight and follow the code of honor known as Bushido. The samurai would serve their daimyo with loyalty and honor. Life in Japan was hard, but the people were strong and brave. They worked together to grow food, raise animals, and keep their families safe. They showed respect for the land, the spirits, and each other. The samurai were an important part of their lives, protecting them from danger and keeping the peace. Even though Japan was divided into many regions, the people shared a common way of life, one that valued loyalty, honor, and respect for nature. The samurai's way of life was important in shaping the country of Japan. Their values of courage, honor, and loyalty influenced the people and the way they lived. Even though the samurai age is now in the past, their legacy still lives on in Japan's traditions, culture, and respect for the land. Chapter 5: The Samurai's Code of Honor. In the land of Japan, long ago, a group of noble warriors called the samurai held a deep sense of pride, duty, and honor. Their entire way of life was built on a set of guiding principles called Bushido, which translated to the way of the warrior. The word Bushido itself comes from two important parts: Bushi, meaning warrior, and Do, meaning way or path. Together, these words symbolized a path that every samurai was expected to follow, one that was focused not only on fighting skill, but on living with a moral compass that valued virtues such as loyalty, courage, and respect. The samurai believed that their honor was more valuable than life itself. It was the foundation of their being and the reason for their actions. A samurai who dishonored himself or his family could lose everything, including his life. This was because, for the samurai, the shame of losing one's honor was worse than death. The fear of dishonor shaped every decision, every movement, and every action they took, whether on the battlefield or in their daily lives. Samurai were warriors, but they were also men and women of refinement. They lived their lives with dignity, and their reputation mattered above all else. Their ability to wield a sword and fight in battle was only one part of their training. They also had to be educated, well versed in the arts of poetry, literature, and calligraphy. They were expected to appreciate nature and be wise in all things, for they knew that a warrior's strength did not lie solely in his sword, but also in his heart and mind. One of the core principles of Bushido was loyalty. Loyalty to one's lord, the daimyo, was sacred. A daimyo was a feudal lord who ruled over a province or area, and his samurai were expected to protect him and serve him without question. This loyalty was so strong that samurai were willing to lay down their lives for their lords. A samurai who betrayed his lord or failed to protect him would lose his standing in the samurai class and would be seen as no better than a common thief. But loyalty did not end with one's lord. It extended to the samurai's family, friends, and fellow warriors. A samurai's bond with his comrades was like a deep, unspoken promise. Together, they would fight, live, and die for each other. And when times were hard, it was this sense of loyalty that kept them united, even in the face of overwhelming odds. They knew that they were part of something much bigger than themselves. Their duty was to protect the family and the community, even at the cost of their own lives. The samurai were also taught to be brave and courageous. They believed that it was their duty to face death without fear, as it was a natural part of life. Samurai were expected to fight with great skill and strategy, always staying calm under pressure. To be truly brave, a samurai had to keep his emotions in check, making decisions based on reason and honor, not fear or anger. This was especially important in battle. The battlefield was a place where bravery was put to the ultimate test. The samurai fought with swords, bows, and spears. The katana, the samurai's signature weapon, was both a tool of battle and a symbol of their code. Its blade was sharp, quick, and deadly, just like the samurai themselves. But beyond just skill with weapons, the samurai had to be able to think ahead, to anticipate their enemies' moves, and to act decisively. Bravery, therefore, meant not only facing physical danger, but also making the right decisions at critical moments, even when everything was at stake. Honesty was another pillar of Bushido. A samurai's word was his bond, and lying was seen as the ultimate dishonor. The samurai were expected to keep promises, to speak the truth, and to act with integrity. A samurai who broke his word would be seen as untrustworthy, and trust was essential to the samurai's place in society. Whether in battle or in everyday life, the samurai could not afford to betray the trust of those around him. In addition to these virtues, respect played a crucial role in the samurai's way of life. The samurai were taught to show respect not only to their superiors, but to everyone, regardless of rank or status. Respect for others was a sign of strength, not weakness, and it was an important part of being a noble warrior. Samurai were expected to be humble, to show gratitude for the small things in life, and to treat others with kindness, even in the midst of war. This respect also extended to nature and the spirits that inhabited it. In fact, the samurai believed that everything had a spirit, and they honored nature as much as they did the people around them. This respect for nature was reflected in their love for poetry, especially haiku, a short form of Japanese poetry that captured the beauty and simplicity of the natural world. Many samurai were also skilled artists, able to paint, compose music, or engage in other artistic pursuits. This connection to the arts was seen as an essential part of a samurai's education and was meant to cultivate balance in their lives. Perhaps one of the most well-known aspects of Bushido was the practice of seppuku, or ritual suicide. This practice was a way for a samurai to restore his honor if he had failed in his duty. If a samurai dishonored himself or his lord, he could choose to end his life by seppuku. It was a painful and dignified way to atone for failure, and it was carried out with strict ritual. By committing seppuku, the samurai believed that they could cleanse their soul and leave behind a legacy of honor, even in death. Seppuku was a difficult and drastic decision, and it was only taken in the most extreme cases. For the samurai, the concept of honor was so important that it transcended life itself. They believed that a death without honor was the greatest tragedy, and they were willing to sacrifice everything, including their own lives, to preserve their honor and the honor of their family and lord. But despite the strict rules of Bushido, not all samurai adhered to the code in the same way. As time passed, some samurai became more concerned with power, wealth, and status than with the true spirit of Bushido. Some samurai took advantage of their position, forgetting the original values of loyalty, courage, and honor. These samurai became mercenaries, fighting for whoever paid them the most, rather than for a noble cause. Over time, the traditional role of the samurai began to fade, and the warriors who had once been the protectors of Japan were no longer held in the same high regard. Still, the legacy of Bushido continues to influence Japan today. The samurai's code of honor has left a lasting impact on Japanese culture, and many of the values they upheld are still important in modern society. Honor, loyalty, respect, and courage are ideals that are celebrated and upheld by many people, not just in Japan but around the world. Chapter 6: The Warrior's Sword. The samurai's sword was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of honor, a tool that defined the identity of the warrior who wielded it. Among all the possessions a samurai owned, his katana, the longsword, was the most treasured. It was a reflection of his skill, his character, and his place in society. The sword was not merely a tool of war, but a spiritual companion, an extension of the samurai's soul. The process of creating a katana was a complex and sacred art. Master swordsmiths, known as tasho, would spend years honing their craft, passing down techniques from generation to generation. The making of a katana was not only about forging a strong and sharp blade, it was about creating a work of art, a blade that could capture the samurai's spirit and carry it through battle. The process began with the selection of high-quality steel, often iron sand, which would be smelted and heated until it became molten. The molten metal was then shaped into a long, flat bar. This bar would be repeatedly folded and hammered to create multiple layers of steel, which would increase its strength and durability. The folding process was a spiritual practice as much as it was a technical one. Each fold symbolized the connection between the swordsmith and his craft, an act of patience and dedication. The repeated folding of the steel was said to give the katana its unique edge, which made it so deadly. As the blade began to take shape, the swordsmith would carefully craft the tang, the part of the sword that would be hidden inside the hilt, and shape the curve of the blade. The katana's distinctive curve was important for its cutting ability, allowing it to slice through an opponent with speed and precision. The blade was then polished using stones, a process that could take several months to complete. Once the blade was finished, it was fitted into a handle known as the tsuka, made of wood and wrapped with a strong cord, usually silk. The hilt was carefully wrapped in a specific pattern, which not only provided a secure grip, but also had deep symbolic meaning. The pattern of the wrapping could indicate the owner's rank or allegiance. The sword was then completed with a kashira pommel and a fuchi collar, both of which helped secure the tsuka and added decorative elements to the weapon. The final product was a katana that gleamed with deadly beauty. The blade was sharp enough to cut through armor, and the steel was strong enough to withstand the harshest of battles. To a samurai, his katana was more than just a weapon. It was an extension of his being, a companion that would fight alongside him in battle. In some cases, the katana was even given a name, further emphasizing its importance. A samurai's relationship with his katana was deep and personal. It was said that the samurai would perform rituals to purify and care for their swords, ensuring that they remained in perfect condition. The katana was cleaned and oiled regularly, and its blade was sharpened with great care. The sword was not simply a tool of destruction, it was treated with reverence, a sacred object that embodied the spirit of the samurai. The sword also had a spiritual significance. Samurai believed that the katana was a conduit through which their inner strength and honor could be channeled. It was a weapon that required skill, focus, and discipline. A samurai trained for years to master the art of sword fighting, known as kenjutsu. Kenjutsu was a rigorous discipline that combined physical strength with mental clarity. Samurai were taught not only to fight with their sword, but to think quickly and act decisively. They practiced various forms, or keri, which were prearranged movements designed to teach the samurai balance, coordination, and proper technique. But kenjutsu was not just about technique, it was also about developing a warrior's spirit. Samurai believed that their swords were an extension of their will, and that a samurai with a strong and focused mind would be able to defeat an opponent with ease. For this reason, sword training often involved meditative practices that allowed the samurai to clear their minds and center themselves before battle. In battle, the katana was used with deadly precision. Samurai would often engage in one-on-one combat, where the goal was to strike down the opponent with a single decisive blow. The katana's sharpness and speed made it ideal for such encounters. In many ways, the samurai's sword was a reflection of his inner strength, quick, sharp, and focused. However, the katana was also used as a tool of defense. Samurai were not always on the attack. Many times they were defending their homes, their families, or their lord. In these instances, the katana was used not just to cut down an enemy, but to protect those who were unable to defend themselves. The samurai were defenders of the weak, and their swords were a symbol of their commitment to uphold justice and righteousness. There was also a concept of severance associated with the katana. The samurai believed that, in battle, a warrior's blade could sever more than just flesh and bone. It could sever the ties between life and death, between good and evil, and between the warrior and his honor. The act of drawing the sword, known as yaijutsu, was seen as a moment of finality. Once the sword was drawn, there was no turning back. It was a commitment to fight, to win, and to do so with honor. The katana's significance extended far beyond the battlefield. It was a symbol of a samurai's identity, a marker of his status and rank. To carry a katana was to carry the weight of responsibility. The sword signified that the warrior was prepared to defend his lord, his family, and his honor. It was a constant reminder of the virtues of Bushido that the samurai held dear. But over time, as the role of the samurai began to shift in Japanese society, the katana became less of a weapon and more of a symbol of tradition. As Japan moved away from its feudal past and into a more modern era, the need for samurai warriors lessened. However, the katana remained an important cultural symbol, representing the virtues and ideals that the samurai had lived by for centuries. Even today, the katana is revered in Japanese culture, often displayed as a work of art or as a relic of Japan's rich history. While the katana may no longer be used in battle, its legacy continues to live on in the hearts and minds of the Japanese people. It remains a symbol of honor, courage, and discipline, values that are still highly respected in modern society. The sword may no longer be the samurai's primary tool of defense, but the spirit of the warrior still lives on. In many ways, the katana symbolizes the enduring legacy of the samurai code, a reminder that honor, respect, and courage are timeless values that transcend generations. Chapter 7: The Way of the Samurai. The samurai were not simply warriors. They were guardians of a way of life, practitioners of a code that transcended battle and permeated every aspect of their lives. This code was known as Bushido, or the Way of the Warrior. It was a set of moral principles that governed the behavior and conduct of the samurai. Rooted in loyalty, honor, and discipline, Bushido became the foundation of samurai culture and identity, influencing not only the warriors themselves, but also the society in which they lived. Bushido was not a set of rigid rules. Rather, it was a living philosophy that adapted to the needs of the times. It was a balance of martial prowess and spiritual enlightenment, of strength and humility. At its core, Bushido emphasized 7 key virtues: Gi, righteousness; Yu, bravery; Jin, benevolence; Rei, respect; Makoto, honesty; Meiyo, honor; and Chugi, loyalty. These principles were the compass by which samurai navigated their lives, dictating everything from how they fought in battle to how they treated their peers and their enemies. At the heart of Bushido was Gi, righteousness. This virtue held that a samurai must always act with fairness, integrity, and justice. In the face of temptation, the samurai were taught to choose the path of righteousness, even if it meant sacrificing personal gain or comfort. A samurai's actions should reflect the virtues of truth and justice, for only by living honorably could one maintain their integrity as a warrior. Yu, bravery, was another pillar of Bushido. However, bravery was not just about courage on the battlefield. It also involved moral courage. A samurai had to be brave in the face of adversity, not just in combat, but in all areas of life. It took bravery to stand up for what was right, even when it meant challenging those in power or risking one's own safety. A samurai's bravery was defined by their commitment to uphold their principles, regardless of the consequences. Jin, benevolence, was perhaps one of the most distinguishing traits of the samurai. While warriors are often associated with violence and brutality, The samurai were taught to exercise compassion and kindness. Benevolence meant looking out for the weak and the helpless, protecting them from harm, and ensuring that justice was served. A samurai's strength was not only in their sword, but in their ability to show mercy and protect those who could not protect themselves. Rei, respect, was integral to the samurai code. Samurai were taught to treat all people with dignity, regardless of their rank or status. They bowed to their elders, listened to their peers, and respected their enemies. Respect was also shown in the way they conducted themselves. Samurai were expected to be polite, humble, and courteous, even in the most challenging situations. A lack of respect was considered a serious breach of Bushido and could lead to disgrace. Makoto, honesty, was a principle that shaped the samurai's relationship with both their lord and their comrades. The samurai were expected to be truthful in all their dealings, whether in matters of war or everyday life. Deception and dishonesty were seen as dishonorable, and any samurai caught lying would risk losing their honor and reputation. A samurai who spoke with sincerity was highly regarded, and their word was considered their bond. Meiyo honor was perhaps the most sacred value in Bushido. A samurai's honor was their most prized possession, and it was the measure by which they were judged by society. Honor was tied to personal reputation and the legacy one left behind. A dishonored samurai could not face their family, their peers, or their ancestors with pride. To maintain honor, samurai had to live their lives in accordance with the highest moral standards. In cases of extreme dishonor, a samurai might even commit seppuku, a form of ritual suicide, to restore their honor. Finally, chugi, loyalty, was the glue that held everything together. Loyalty to one's lord, to one's comrades, and to one's code was paramount in the life of a samurai. A samurai was expected to serve their lord with unwavering devotion, even at the cost of their own life. Loyalty extended to their family and community, ensuring that they acted in a way that upheld the greater good, even if it meant personal sacrifice. Bushido was not just a set of ideals, it was a way of life. The samurai believed that by embodying these virtues, they would achieve Zen, a state of spiritual peace and enlightenment. This inner peace allowed them to remain calm and composed in the heat of battle, to strike with precision, and to make decisions with clarity. Samurai were taught that true mastery came not just from physical strength, but from mental discipline. Meditation, mindfulness, and other spiritual practices were often incorporated into their daily lives to strengthen their minds and cultivate their spirits. The samurai's commitment to Bushido was not limited to their personal conduct. It was also reflected in their social responsibilities. Samurai were expected to protect the community, to defend the honor of their families, and to serve their lords without question. The relationship between a samurai and their lord was based on a sense of mutual respect and duty. The lord provided the samurai with land, status, and protection, while the samurai pledged their loyalty, their sword, and their life in return. Over time, Bushido became intertwined with the concept of the warrior class. The samurai were seen as the embodiment of these virtues, and their conduct was admired and emulated by the rest of society. However, the samurai's role was not without conflict. As Japan entered a more peaceful era, the need for warriors decreased, and the samurai found themselves transitioning from soldiers to bureaucrats. Despite this change, the ideals of Bushido remained deeply ingrained in samurai society, and they continued to influence Japan's culture, politics, and social norms. In the modern world, the samurai and their code are often romanticized and idealized. Today, Bushido remains a symbol of the strength, discipline, and honor that characterized the samurai way of life. Many people still study Bushido, seeking to integrate its principles into their own lives. The samurai may no longer ride into battle with their swords drawn, but their spirit endures in the hearts of those who seek to live with honor, integrity, and courage. Chapter 8: The Call of the Sea. The sea has always been a place of mystery and adventure. It is a vast, endless expanse that stretches beyond the horizon, holding secrets in its depths and stories in its waves. For centuries, people have been drawn to the sea, captivated by its beauty and the promise of new discoveries. It is a place where sailors and explorers test their courage, where the brave venture into the unknown, seeking riches, glory, or simply the thrill of the journey. In ancient times, the sea was seen as both a provider and a threat. It was a source of food, trade, and exploration, but it was also unpredictable and dangerous. Many ancient civilizations built their cultures around the sea. The Egyptians, Greeks, and Phoenicians all had extensive naval traditions. They built ships that could travel long distances, navigating the vast oceans and reaching distant lands. The sea was a path to discovery, but it was also a place where many lost their lives. The ancient Greeks, in particular, revered the sea. They believed it was ruled by Poseidon, the god of the ocean. Poseidon was seen as both a protector and a punisher, able to bring calm seas or fierce storms at will. He was the embodiment of the sea's unpredictable nature, and sailors would offer prayers to him before embarking on long voyages, hoping for his favor. For the Greeks, the sea was not just a physical space, it was a spiritual one as well. It was a place where gods and mortals interacted, where myth and reality intertwined. The sea was the setting for many of their most famous myths, from the adventures of Odysseus to the tales of the Argonauts. These stories were not just about the sea, they were about the human spirit and the challenges it faces when confronting the unknown. As civilization advanced, the relationship between people and the sea evolved. Ships became more advanced, and navigation improved. The age of exploration began, and sailors ventured further than ever before, discovering new lands and opening up trade routes that would connect the world in ways never before imagined. The sea was no longer just a source of mystery, it was a way to unite distant lands and cultures. One of the most famous explorers to embrace the call of the sea was Christopher Columbus. In 1492, Columbus set sail from Spain, determined to find a new route to Asia by crossing the Atlantic. What he discovered instead was a new world, America. His journey changed the course of history, and the world would never be the same again. Columbus's voyages are remembered not just for the lands he discovered, but for the spirit of adventure and the pursuit of the unknown that drove him. The sea was not just a physical barrier, it was also a symbol of the unknown, and the unexplored. For explorers like Columbus, the call of the sea was irresistible. It represented the promise of discovery, of new lands, and of new possibilities. It was a challenge to be overcome, a puzzle to be solved. The sea was a place where the ordinary could become extraordinary, where the brave could test their limits and achieve greatness. However, the sea also had a darker side. It was a place where many had perished, where storms and shipwrecks claimed the lives of countless sailors. It was a place of danger, where the slightest mistake could lead to disaster. The sea's power was vast and uncontrollable, and those who ventured into its depths had to respect its force. The unpredictability of the sea has always been part of its allure. Sailors would often talk of the sea's moods, of how it could go from calm to treacherous in an instant. One moment, the ocean would be peaceful, with gentle waves lapping at the shore, and the next, a storm would rise, turning the calm waters into a violent tempest. The sea was as much a force of nature as it was a reflection of the human experience, full of highs and lows, calm and chaos, certainty and uncertainty. The sea has also inspired countless myths and legends. In many cultures, the sea was believed to be inhabited by gods, spirits, and creatures of unimaginable power. The ancient Greeks had Poseidon, while the Norse had Njord, the god of the sea. In other cultures, the sea was believed to be the home of creatures like mermaids, sea serpents, and other mystical beings. These myths spoke to humanity's fascination with the sea's vastness and its potential to hold the unknown. In more recent times, the sea has continued to captivate the imagination. The age of exploration may have passed, but the sea still represents adventure, mystery, and discovery. Modern sailors, scientists, and adventurers still seek to uncover the secrets of the ocean, whether it's exploring the deepest trenches or discovering new species of marine life. The call of the sea continues to echo through the ages, reminding us that there is always more to discover, always new horizons to reach. For many, the sea is more than just a physical place. It's a symbol of freedom and possibility. To stand on the edge of the ocean is to feel small in the face of something vast and powerful. The sea reminds us of the scale of the world and the infinite possibilities that lie beyond the horizon. It is a place where the mind can wander, where the spirit can soar, and where adventure is always just a ship's sail away. The relationship between humans and the sea is as old as civilization itself. The sea has shaped our cultures, our economies, and our stories. It has been a source of life and a place of death. It has brought us together and kept us apart. It has challenged us and inspired us. And it continues to call us, inviting us to explore, to discover, and to dream. For those who hear its call, the sea is never just a place, it is a way of life. It is a reminder that there is always more to see, always more to learn, and always more to become. The call of the sea is a call to adventure, a call to courage, and a call to the unknown. Chapter 9: The Winds of Change. Change is an inevitable part of life. It comes like the wind, sweeping across the land, stirring things up, and shaping the world in ways we might not always expect. The winds of change can be gentle, a soft breeze that brings a new season, or they can be fierce, a powerful storm that challenges everything in its path. In either case, change is a force that shapes us, teaches us, and often pushes us into new directions. Throughout history, the winds of change have been the driving force behind many of the most significant moments in human civilization. The rise and fall of empires, the spread of ideas, and the discoveries of new lands all came about because of change. Whether it was through the changing of political power, the arrival of new technologies, or the shifting of cultural norms, change has always been at the heart of human progress. One of the most significant periods of change in history occurred during the Industrial Revolution. Beginning in the late 18th century, the world saw a dramatic transformation in how people lived and worked. New machines were invented that could produce goods faster and more efficiently than ever before. Factories sprang up in cities, and people moved from rural areas to urban centers in search of work. This was a time of rapid progress, but also a time of great challenges. The shift from an agrarian economy to an industrial one required people to adapt to new ways of life, and not everyone was ready for the change. The Industrial Revolution also brought about a shift in how people viewed work. In the past, most people had worked on farms or in small workshops, but with the rise of factories, work became more specialized and more focused on mass production. For the first time, people were working in large groups in factories, often for long hours and under difficult conditions. This new way of life brought with it new problems: child labor, unsafe working conditions, and the rise of new social classes. Yet, despite these challenges, the winds of change kept pushing forward, and society gradually adapted to the new industrial age. Another powerful wave of change came with the spread of new ideas. In the 19th and 20th centuries, movements for freedom, equality, and justice began to take hold across the globe. The winds of change were blowing through every corner of the world as people demanded their rights and fought for their voices to be heard. The abolition of slavery, the rise of women's suffrage, and the struggle for civil rights were all part of the larger movement toward equality and justice. In many ways, these movements were about challenging the old ways of thinking and embracing new ideals that promised a better future for everyone. One of the most notable examples of change came with the fall of empires. The British Empire, once one of the most powerful and far-reaching empires in the world, began to crumble in the mid-20th century. The winds of change were felt in colonies around the world as nations sought their independence. India gained its independence from Britain in 1947, and soon after, many other countries followed suit. The world map was redrawn, and former colonies became independent nations. This shift in power brought about new challenges, but it also opened up new possibilities for these nations to shape their own futures. In more recent times, the winds of change have been driven by the rise of technology and the information age. The internet, smartphones, and social media have transformed the way we communicate, work, and live. The world has become more connected than ever before, and ideas can now spread across the globe in an instant. This new digital age has brought about a shift in how we think about privacy, security, and relationships. It has changed the way we do business, and it has even affected how we view ourselves and our place in the world. The digital revolution is still unfolding, and its full impact is yet to be seen. But one thing is clear: the winds of change are blowing stronger than ever. As we look to the future, the winds of change continue to shape our world. Climate change, globalization, and the ongoing evolution of technology are all forces that will continue to push us in new directions. Some of these changes will be exciting and full of opportunity, while others may present new challenges. But one thing is certain: change is constant, and how we respond to it will determine the course of our future. Change can be frightening, especially when it feels as though the world is shifting in ways we don't fully understand. But it is also a powerful force for growth and progress. The challenges that come with change often push us to adapt, learn, and innovate. The winds of change are not something to fear. They are something to embrace. They are the forces that drive us forward, that challenge us to be better, and that remind us that nothing stays the same forever. Throughout history, the most successful people and societies have been those who have embraced change rather than resisted it. They have understood that change is not something to fight against, but something to harness. Whether it was through the inventions of the Industrial Revolution, the rise of social movements, or the advancements of the digital age, change has always been the key to progress. So, what can we learn from the winds of change? First, we can learn that nothing is permanent. The world around us is always shifting, and sometimes it feels as though everything is in flux. But rather than resisting these changes, we should learn to adapt and evolve with them. Change is an opportunity, not a threat. It is a chance to grow, to learn, and to improve. Second, we can learn that change often comes with challenges. Whether it is the struggle for independence, the fight for equality, or the adjustments we must make in the face of new technologies, change often requires us to confront difficulties. But these challenges are what make change meaningful. They are what make progress possible. And finally, we can learn that change is a part of the natural cycle of life. Just as the wind blows, the seasons change, and the tides ebb and flow, change is an intrinsic part of the world we live in. We must accept it, work with it, and allow it to guide us toward a better future. As the winds of change continue to blow across the world, we are all part of the journey. We are all shaping the future, whether we realize it or not. The choices we make today, the actions we take, and the ways we adapt to change will determine the world of tomorrow. So, let us embrace the winds of change, for they are the winds that will carry us forward into the future. Chapter 10: The Path to the Future. The future is something that is both exciting and mysterious. It is like a road that stretches out before us, winding through unknown landscapes, full of opportunities and challenges. It is a path that we walk every day, one step at a time, but we can never fully predict where it will lead. What we do today shapes the future, and the decisions we make now will determine the world we live in tomorrow. As we look toward the future, we must understand that it is not just something that happens to us, it is something we create. Throughout history, humans have always looked to the future with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. The ancient Greeks believed that the future was governed by fate, something that could not be changed or avoided. They thought that the gods controlled the course of events and that individuals had little power over their destiny. But as time went on, humans began to realize that the future was not something to be feared or left to chance. It was something that could be shaped by our actions, our choices, and our dreams. The idea of shaping the future became central to the age of exploration. In the 15th and 16th centuries, European explorers set out to discover new lands, new trade routes, and new possibilities. They did not know what they would find or what dangers lay ahead, but they were driven by the desire to build a better future. These explorers knew that the future could be shaped by the decisions they made in the present. Their journeys not only expanded the boundaries of the known world, but also changed the course of history. They opened up new markets, introduced new ideas, and brought about a new era of global exchange. In more recent times, the path to the future has been shaped by science and technology. The Industrial Revolution, which began in the late 18th century, brought about dramatic changes in how people lived and worked. Factories and machines replaced manual labor, and new innovations in transportation and communication made the world seem smaller and more connected. People began to believe that the future was something that could be engineered and controlled through the application of science and technology. This belief led to the rapid advancement of industries, the rise of cities, and the creation of a global economy. As we look to the future today, we are faced with new challenges and opportunities that are unlike anything humans have ever encountered. The rise of artificial intelligence, the exploration of outer space, and the advancements in medicine and biotechnology are just a few of the areas that are shaping the future. We are on the verge of breakthroughs that could transform the way we live, work, and think. But with these advancements come new questions and uncertainties. How will we manage the ethical implications of AI? What impact will space exploration have on our understanding of life and the universe? How will advances in biotechnology change what it means to be human? The answers to these questions are not clear, but one thing is certain: the path to the future will be shaped by the choices we make today. The future is not something that happens to us, it is something we actively participate in. The decisions we make, both individually and collectively, will determine the world we leave for future generations. This responsibility is both a privilege and a challenge, but it is one that we must embrace. One of the most important aspects of shaping the future is education. Knowledge is the key to progress, and the more we learn, the better equipped we are to navigate the challenges ahead. Education is the foundation on which the future is built. It provides us with the tools to think critically, solve problems, and create new ideas. In today's rapidly changing world, it is more important than ever that we continue to educate ourselves and others, preparing the next generation for the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. As we think about the future, we must also consider the importance of sustainability. The world we live in today is not the same as it was in the past, and it will not be the same in the future. We must be mindful of the impact our actions have on the environment, the economy, and society as a whole. The choices we make now will determine the health of our planet, the well-being of future generations, and the balance between progress and preservation. Sustainability is not just about protecting the environment. It is about creating a future that is equitable, just, and capable of supporting all people and all life. Technology is one of the most powerful tools we have to shape the future, but it is also one of the greatest challenges. Advances in technology have brought about incredible progress, but they have also raised new questions about privacy, security, and the balance of power. The rise of social media, for example, has connected the world in ways that were once unimaginable, but it has also brought about concerns about the spread of misinformation and the erosion of privacy. As we continue to innovate and develop new technologies, we must be mindful of their impact on society and ensure that they are used for the greater good. The future is also about the connections we build with one another. The world today is more interconnected than ever before, and this interconnectedness will continue to grow in the coming years. People from different cultures, backgrounds, and countries are working together in ways that were once impossible. The path to the future will be shaped by our ability to work together, to understand one another, and to build a global community that is united in its pursuit of progress and peace. In the end, the path to the future is not a straight line. It is full of twists and turns, moments of uncertainty, and opportunities for growth. But as long as we continue to move forward, guided by our values, our knowledge, and our desire to build a better world, the future will be a place of hope, possibility, and promise. The path to the future is one that we must walk together with a shared commitment to creating a world that is just, sustainable, and full of opportunity for all. The winds of change are always blowing, and the path ahead is never clear. But as long as we embrace the future with courage, determination, and a sense of responsibility, we can be confident that we will shape a world that is better than the one we have today. The path to the future is in our hands, and it is up to us to make it a path worth walking.